If you are a coach or info product owner who has an email list or is planning to have an email list in the future, then you made the right move by clicking on this video, because in this video, I'm about to spill all of the secrets behind my 76.2+% open rates for my clients using the email open pyramid. And we can see here for my clients, we have 95% open rate, 76% open rates, 70% open rates, 89%, 76.2%. And not only that, but that's actually translated to real results with 30K in pipeline in 7 days, 5K in pipeline day one, 10.5K in pipeline 10 days, and 10K in pipeline in 7 days. So without further ado, let's just get right into the source. And firstly, why email open rates are so important. Now, so many people spend thousands and thousands of dollars and hours of their time creating copy within the emails, and that's all good, but it's simply useless if nobody actually clicks on and sees the email in the first place. Now, what we have to understand is that in order to get people to open our emails, it needs to seem like the email is worth the time that they're investing. Now, this is called the value exchange principle. Is the time that they're investing going to be worth what they get in return? And the way that we maximize on this principle and we make the perceived value of the email seem as high as possible is using the email open pyramid, which is what I'm about to break down to you later on. But just to put this into context for you, let's look at two scenarios. One scenario with a list which has average opens, and one scenario with a list that has killer opens. Both lists have 10,000 people. One has 25% open rate, one has 70%. So that means 2,500 people see the email here and 7,000 people see the email here. And let's go with a staple click rate of 3%, which, by the way, is very conservative for our clients. If we look at our clients, we have 19% click rates, 41%, 22%. So that's very, very conservative. This means that just by having better open rates, almost 3 times more people are exposed to the offer. And this just perfectly represents how important email open rates are, especially considering that every single person in your list is essentially a warm lead that can buy at any moment. So if 3 times more people are clicking on the link, are exposed to the offer, there's a higher chance that you're going to make more money with higher open rates. So now you understand why email open rates are so important, we need to understand the psychology behind getting people to open our emails. Now, the biggest number one thing we have to understand is that humans don't do anything logically. Forget about opening emails. Humans don't do anything logically. They make decisions based on emotions. And that translates to email opens as well. People will open our emails emotionally, instinctively, impulsively. The chances are that the people who you're writing to, they're not going to be sat at their desk at 7 a.m. extremely chilled out. They have stress going on. They have stuff going on. They may be at a checkout line. They may be in between meetings at work. They've got a lot of stuff going on. So our emails, they have to cut through the noise, and they have to make the viewer's brain, they have to make it stop and think, oh, what's this email? What's this email about? It has to interrupt their flow. So in order to do that, here's 3 psychological biases that you can leverage literally right now in your emails so that they're literally impossible not to open. The first one is what we call the curiosity or interest loop. This is essentially where you just create an itch that they have to scratch. Give them some details, but leave out a bit. Leave out a piece of the puzzle so it unsettles them. For example, you can say something like, this nearly cost me $14,000. You don't want to hear this, but you need to. This habit made me $837.41 yesterday. Now, the reason why this works is because humans are wired to close loops. When you leave out a detail, when you leave out a result or a trick or something else, when you leave out a detail, then the brain concentrates, the brain leads in. The brain wants to see what's that detail that you're missing. What is the missing piece of the puzzle? The second principle, or the second bias, is called loss aversion. And essentially what you have to do here is to highlight what they're already losing. Deepen the pain. For example, you can say something like, this tiny mistake is killing your conversion rate. You've lost $10,000 in the last 24 hours and you don't even know it. Stop doing this before it kills your authority. And the reason why this works is because people are 2 times more motivated to avoid pain than they are to gain something. So by building up the pain and deepening the pain, you're making the cost of inaction, the cost of not opening the email, higher than the cost of opening. And hence, your open rates can be pretty crazy, as we've done here for some of my clients. And loss aversion is probably one of the most powerful principles when it came to getting my clients those kind of results. And then the final bias is what I call the pattern disrupt. All you have to do here is just be weird. Be weird, be unexpected, interrupt their flow, as we were talking about before. People have so much stuff going on in their day. They have to do this, they have to do this, they have stuff going on, they have stress going on in their lives. So we have to interrupt their flow. We have to interrupt whatever they're doing and make their brain stop. Examples can be something like, well, that sucked, or test. Literally just test. One of my best performing emails was literally just had a subject line of test, nothing else. Test, no preview copy, nothing else. Or something like, I shouldn't be telling you this, to be honest. Now, the reason why this works, and we've already touched on this, is because the brain filters out anything that feels normal already. So you win attention and you win the open from the person by breaking that rhythm, by breaking that flow, by interrupting that flow. You're disrupting a pattern in their brain. Now, there are so many more apart from this. There are things like specificity bias, FOMO, negativity bias, authority bias. There are so many more. But the most important thing you have to remember is that you can't use them all. What you should do is look at the goal of your email and then reverse engineer. For example, if you are writing a deadline email, then FOMO is going to be the most applicable. If you're writing an authority email, then specificity bias will be really useful. If you're writing a pain email, then loss aversion will be really useful. Look at the goal of your email and choose which one will be most applicable. And it goes both ways. If you're writing a just a regular free value email, then there's going to be no need for FOMO. So you have to choose which is most applicable and apply it to the situation of the email. But now that you understand what's behind that open and the psychology behind it, because when you start actually working with the human brain, then you'll see your results get exponentially better. So now that you understand the psychology behind it, now let's finally break down the first layer of the email open pyramid, and that is subject lines. Now, this is the pyramid, and as we can see at the bottom are subject lines, and the reason it's the biggest layer is because it has the most impact over your open rates. So after sending out hundreds of emails from my clients, one of the biggest things that I've realized is that every single list that you're writing to is different. You're writing to a specific list with specific emotional triggers, i.e. the emotion that they respond best to. So for example, list A can respond best to pain, list B can respond best to fear, list C can respond best to desire, list D to pain, list E to curiosity. Every single list is different, and every single list has different inbox behaviors. So the reason this is so important is that we humans make decisions based on emotions. So we have to tailor our emails to each different list and each of their specific emotions. And the way that we do that is for all of our clients, what we do is we build our subject lines and our emails in general. But if we're talking about subject lines here, we build our subject lines around one core emotion, whether that be pain, desire, fear or urgency, or curiosity. We build it around one of them. And then we test, because what we understand is that each list has a default emotional bias, i.e. an emotion that they respond best to, which is what we were talking about over here. Some of them will respond best to pain. They'll open when it's a pain-based email. Some will open when it's a fear-based email. So how we find this out and how we find their default emotional bias so that we can maximize open rates is we test. Let's say you have a list of 10,000 people. What we do is we A/B split test on 50% of the list with two different emotions. For example, let's say there's a list of 10,000 people, you split test on 50% of the list. You split test with pain and desire, 2,500 people on a pain-based subject line and 2,500 people on a desire-based subject line. And then, based on which one gets the highest open rates, you then continue sending out emails in that emotional trigger. For example, let's say in this scenario, pain got the higher open rates. Then we send a pain-based subject line to the rest of the 50% of the list. And we continue sending emails in that emotion because we know that that's the list's default emotional bias. That's the emotion that they respond best to. Now, after we find that emotion, and that's what the list gives us, then it's just really, really simple. All we have to do is we have to find an angle for the subject line and for the email, and we have a structure. And we wrap the angle and the structure into the emotion. Now, that may seem a bit confusing, but here's an example so you can properly understand. Let's say the emotion is pain, and then your angle that you're taking is you're just calling out a common pain. Then the structure is a question, and you just create it, posting 24/7, but no clients, question mark. That's it. Extremely simple. We've got the emotion from the list, which is pain. That's the data that they've given us. We've created an angle that we're taking for the email, and we just use the angle of the email. And then we just think of a structure based on what flows with the emotion and the angle, and we create our subject line. Here's even more examples. With desire, you're promising a future with the angle, and the subject line becomes how to get a 3K client in 24 hours from now. Or fear, where you're warning or signaling loss, you've lost 10K in the last 24 hours. Or curiosity, where you're teasing a mystery, the weirdest way I got an additional 10K a month. When you use this kind of system, not only will your open rates, and this is basically the point where we've got to with a lot of my clients, not only will your open rates essentially skyrocket and you'll be able to get higher open rates so much more effectively, but it will become effortless because you're using this system which is so step by step and so simple, and all you're doing is you're just working on the emotion that the list responds best to. And when you work on the emotion that the list responds best to, and you start writing from emotion first, then you're not going to be guessing. You'll just be, this thing will become effortless. You'll just be engineering opens effortlessly. Because, and I'll say this, I've said it about 5 times already, and I'll say it 10 more times, humans make decisions based on emotions. So when you take everything from a standpoint of an emotional view, then your results will be better and so much easier, and they'll come so much easier simply because you're working with the human brain and not against it. But now that you understand what goes into having good subject lines, let's break down the next layer, which is preview text. Now, 99% of people completely ignore this, okay? They ignore the preview text, especially coaches and info product owners. I don't know what it is, but they just view it as unnecessary extra work. But the people who get the very, very best results with email marketing, they know that's a mistake. And if we go back to the results that I got for all of my clients, like here, 95% open rates, none of that would have been possible unless I truly mastered the use of preview text, because preview text is so powerful if you know how to use it in the right way. And it can, and as I've said here as well, if you master the use of it, it can completely skyrocket your opens. Now, most people don't even use it, but still, most of the people who do use it, it completely sucks. Because number one, usually it gives off desperation. Using phrases such as open this or read this, we never use those phrases with any of our clients. And the reason for that is it just gives off complete desperation, as if you need the open. Phrases like open this, read this, never use those type of phrases. Or number two, it's just repeating the subject line. If you repeat yourself, if you're unclear in what you want to say and how you want to articulate yourself, then why will people trust you? People will never trust you because you're just creating more confusion in their brain. So that's the second reason, you're repeating the subject line. So to fix that, what we need to understand is this. The preview text has one of 3 purposes, and your preview text should always achieve one of these 3 purposes, or it can even achieve 2 of them, or 3 of them, all 3 of them. Now, the first one is what we call the cliffhanger extension. And all you're doing here is you're adding context and you're deepening curiosity. For example, the subject line could be something like the funnel that made me $34,117 in 3 days. And then the preview could be something like, and the weird offer that made it convert like crazy. What we're doing here is we're adding context with the offer and the fact that it converted like crazy. And we're deepening curiosity with words such as weird or even words like crazy. And now this, essentially all you're doing here is you're adding things to the subject line that just increase the intrigue and increase the trust that you have with the other person. And this is about to be even further kind of emphasized in these last two. For example, number 2, contrasting punch. This is where you surprise the reader with something that's unexpected. Your subject line could be something like, I made 10K from one email. But the preview is like, but it almost didn't go out. Or I made 10K from one post. Or I made 10K from one post, but it almost got me banned. You're surprising your reader with something unexpected, with something contrasting to what you said in the subject line, because that makes their brain stop and it makes them think, what is he talking about here? And number 3 is what we called the clarifier. Now, this is something that often happens when, as you get better and better at writing subject lines. And what happens a lot of the time is your subject lines can start to seem slightly clickbait. So what this does, what the clarifier does, is it just makes it feel safer to click. And we're about to look at some examples after this as well. All it does is it makes a vague or mysterious subject line feel safe to click. So for example, if you say something like, you're doing this wrong, this can seem like a very, very clickbait subject line. But then if you add in the preview text and it's costing you 5K clients, then it feels less scammy. It feels safer to click. Now, because, people, a lot of the time, people have seen these clickbait type of subject lines so many times that they don't click on them anymore. And they view them as scammy. So if you add more context here, in your preview text with this kind of clarifier and adding more context to the subject line, then it can feel safer, it can feel less scammy, meaning people are more likely to click on it. Now that you understand how to use it and you understand the purpose of it, now this is the most important part. But after you write it, you need to make sure that you ask yourself these 3 questions, because otherwise it can literally hurt your open rates more than it helps. Number 1, does it complete or does it sharpen the subject line? We have to ask yourself after you write it is, if they read this preview text with the subject line, does it increase intrigue or trust? If it doesn't, then remove it. Leave it blank, okay? Don't let autofill, leave it blank. It's better to have blank preview text than to have something that doesn't flow with the rest of the subject line or doesn't achieve one of these 3 purposes, because in that case, it can hurt you more than help. Number 2 is you have to be concise. You have to be concise here. You have to front load the goal. Generally with preview text, especially when it comes to mobile, it'll only show 35 to 60 characters. So you cannot make it super long and super wordy and super not to the point. Just cut all of the fluff, cut all of the BS, and just get straight to the point. Okay? And the final question you have to ask yourself is avoid duplication or filler. Never repeat the subject line and never let it autofill. What will happen a lot of the time is if you don't include it, then in that space where the preview text is meant to show, it will show the beginning of the email. Now, this is terrible because what a lot of people will do, and a lot of people in your list will do, is they'll just skim the first bit of your email, and if it doesn't seem like it's valuable, then they'll just delete it and they'll never see it again and you won't get the open. Now, this is terrible because we want people to see the value that we're creating. There's no way that they can get all of the value and all of the things that we have to show them just by reading the first literally couple of words from our email. So we should never ever let it autofill. And we should also never repeat the subject line. So just to recap, number 1, does it increase trust? Number 2, am I concise? And number 3, am I repeating or am I letting it autofill? Okay? And here's some examples from my inbox from some very, very, very effective examples. Here we have Sasha Caraba, 30K a month from dog toys, ? People are asking if this is even real. Now this is very, very good because it's number 1. We're deepening curiosity here. People are asking if this is even real. Why would people be asking if this is even real? That makes the reader question that. Just imagine for a second if she'd never said that. 30K a month from dog toys, and then 30K a month from dog toys, people are asking if this is even real. It allows you to add more context and deepen curiosity with people. Second example, Alex Cotoni. Is marketing dead in 2025? You need to stop doing this. Now, this is a perfect example of number 3, where we're making a almost kind of clickbait subject line where this is a very good subject line. It says something, is marketing dead in 2025? In people's brains, people are going to think, how can you run a business without marketing? It can seem slightly clickbait. So by adding this, you need to stop doing this. The preview text implies that she's talking about something specific. So here it's making it feel safer to click. We're clarifying something. We're clarifying the subject line. So it feels safer and it feels less scammy or less clickbait. And then the final example, also from Alex Cotoni. Obviously, we need to talk about this. We got 260.6 views. First of all, here we have specificity bias. Going back to our psychological principles, specificity bias, 260.6%. That increases curiosity. And then obviously we need to talk about this, ... We got 260. Here is a combination of 1 and 3. We're adding context to it. We know it's probably something about social media. To views. The word views immediately is associated with social media. And then we're deepening curiosity. How did she double her views? How did she get so many more views? And she's breaking it down in this email. And also, number 3, it's making this almost vague, mysterious subject line. Obviously, we need to talk about this. What is this? What does she need to talk about? And we're making it feel safer to click because it's eliminating some doubt. It's being more specific. We know it's about social media now, and it feels less clickbait and less scammy. And now you understand how to use preview text. So we've covered how you can effectively use subject lines to increase your open rates, and how you can further use preview text to further increase it. So now let's talk about the smallest part of the pyramid, but nevertheless still very effective and still used by some very, very successful entrepreneurs in their email marketing to further increase their opens. So let's just get right into it. So far we've been using one of 2 hooks. Now there are 3 hooks in total. There are verbalized hooks, text hooks, and visual hooks. But in email marketing, there are 2 hooks. Text hooks, which are just your subject lines and your preview copy, and then visual hooks. Now, what not a lot of people know is you can't actually use a visual hook before people even open your emails with your subject line. And by the way, this is something I've only seen one person. I'm subscribed to hundreds of email lists. This is something I've only seen one person, one 8-figure entrepreneur use, and he's one of the best email marketers that I know. Now, you're probably wondering, how do you even use a visual hook before someone opens email? How's that even possible? Email is all text-based, right? Well, and that's using animated profile pictures. What are animated profile pictures, you're probably wondering? It's essentially just a face shot of you, your regular profile picture, but it's moving. For example, for this 8-figure entrepreneur, Dan Henry, who uses this, and he gets very, very good results with his email marketing. He's made millions and not tens of millions from his email marketing itself. He uses animated profile pictures. What he does is he has a picture of himself, and then the picture of himself moves around in a circle. This is a visual hook. And the reason why it works is because, number 1, the brain is hardwired to notice movement. It's survival instinct. Hundreds of years ago, when our ancestors lived in the forest, noticing movement is simply a survival instinct. Number 2, novelty bias. It's something new. As I said before, I'm subscribed to hundreds, probably maybe even close to the thousands email lists, and I've only seen one person use this. So if nobody's using it and it's something new, it's going to increase intrigue and increase curiosity in people. And hence, it's also a pattern disrupt. Since people haven't seen it before, it disrupts a pattern in their brain. It makes their brain stop and think, what is this? And if you combine novelty bias and a pattern disrupt, so something new, with your face, then you're going to build so much familiarity with people, because people are going to know you for the fact that you have this weird thing going on in your emails, this animated profile picture. So they're going to remember you for that. But the fact that your face is tied to that is going to build so much familiarity with people, and you're going to be able to actually build trust with people simply by using a profile picture. Just a profile picture. Can you imagine? Just using a profile picture, you're going to be able to build more familiarity and build trust. Crazy, isn't it? And that is the entire email open pyramid. I've gone through that extremely briefly and quite quickly. There's a lot more to it, and in fact, I could probably talk about this for hours if I wanted to. I could make a much longer extended video. If you guys want that, just comment down below, and I can make an extended video on that. But just to recap, here's what we've covered. Subject lines, how to use this kind of emotionally driven response framework so that you can send subject lines to your list based on the emotions that they respond best to. Number 2 is preview copy and how to use that to maximize your open rates using one of the 3 purposes, which are the clarifier, the contrasting punch, and the cliffhanger. And then finally, how to use this thing that almost nobody is doing, which are animated profile pictures, to even further increase your open rates. So even you will be able to get 76.2 plus, 95%, 76%, 70%, 89%, and eventually also be able to translate that into actual money with your email marketing, as we also broke down there. And now a lot of you are probably going to be mad at me for this, because you're after watching all of that. But what if I told you that everything that I've just broken down to you, you don't need any of it? I'm completely serious. You don't need any of that in order to get people to open your emails if you have this one thing. All you need is this one thing. And this is essentially the backbone behind your entire client getting system in the first place. If you have this, you don't need good subject lines, good preview copy, animated profile pictures. You don't need any of that crap. If you just have this one thing, just this one thing. And it's how all of these 8 to 9 figure entrepreneurs, Iman Gadzhi, John Mark Stevenson, Ali Abdaal, Nick Setting, Ed Lawrence, Dan Coe, Tom Youngs, Alex Hormozi, all of them built their business on this one thing. And it's the same thing that's going to help you completely skyrocket your email results. And that is trust and authority. Now, you're probably wondering, and you're probably banging your head against the wall right now. I'm probably extremely annoying to you because I'm giving you all of these twists and turns. But you're probably wondering, how the heck will trust and authority help my email opens? How is that even possible? Well, think about it like this. Think of a person who you trust a lot. Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your dad, someone who you know really well, or someone who you trust a lot. If they send you a message, if they send you a text message, do you open it without thinking? Yes, you do. If your mom sends you a message, you will open it without thinking. Well, it's the exact same thing with email. If you have trust and authority in your audience, then people will just open your emails without thinking. And this links to what we were talking about before, the value exchange principle. Because when people view you as the expert or as the authority in their mind, then they know that the value that they're going to get from reading your email is going to be far more than the amount that what they have to invest into reading that email, which is their time. So their time will be worth it. The time that they invest will be worth it because you have knowledge that they don't. They view you as the expert and the authority. And so they will open and they will read the email. So if there was one big important message that I could give to you after this entire video, is that before chasing any subject line or any email open, because this is a very hot topic, how to get higher email opens, how do I increase my email opens? I hear this all the time from people who come to me, and even from people who I connect with on Instagram. How do I get higher email opens? And the most important message I would give to everyone is stop focusing on chasing that email open or chasing that subject line, and focus on having an audience that trusts you. Because that makes life 10 times easier. That makes life 10 times easier than having some good subject line or having some good preview copy. Focus on that and focus on building a system that allows you to do that above anything else. So if you want to learn, by the way, how to build that system, at the end of this video, just click on this video up above me that's popping up right now, and that'll essentially walk you through exactly how to do that and how to build a system on trust, and how all of these entrepreneurs have built their business using the system. And by the way, while you're clicking on that video, if you want me to handle your entire email marketing process from A to Z, so you can get these kind of results from your email and scale, then just go down below, scroll down and book in a call with me. It's not going to be some super high pressure sales call. We'll just have a chat. So yeah, make sure to book in that call. if you're a coach or info product owner. And also make sure to click on this video next, which breaks down how to create that system that allows you to build trust with people, and how all of these people, all of these entrepreneurs have built their business.